3 days later, the Galactic Council's military testing facility buzzed with activity. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered to witness what many considered the most entertaining event in recent Council history. Viewing platforms surrounded a carefully constructed urban environment designed to simulate city warfare scenarios that various member species might encounter. The facility itself was impressive by any standard. Holographic projectors created realistic building structures, while force fields provided actual physical barriers. Environmental systems could simulate different atmospheric conditions, gravity levels, and terrain types. Sensor networks monitored every aspect of combat, tracking weapon effectiveness, casualty rates, and tactical movements with perfect accuracy. Admiral Chen stood in the human staging area with her team, reviewing final preparations. Captain Rodriguez checked his equipment one last time while Dr. Vasquez made last-minute adjustments to their communication systems. Around them, 48 carefully selected human soldiers prepared for what many considered a suicide mission. These weren't ordinary soldiers. Each had been chosen for specific skills developed through years of urban warfare on Earth. They represented the best of humanity's military forces, trained in tactics that had evolved through centuries of building-to-building fighting in environments ranging from ancient cities to modern metropolises. Sergeant Major William Torres, a veteran of conflicts on 3 continents, adjusted his simulation armor and checked his primary weapon. The standard human assault rifle appeared laughably primitive compared to the energy weapons carried by other species, but Torres had used similar weapons to survive encounters that would have challenged much better equipped forces. "Ma'am," he approached Admiral Chen, "the team is ready. Everyone understands the parameters?" "Simulation weapons only," Chen confirmed. "Computer-monitored casualties. Our objective is to hold the Central District for 2 hours against Krogoth assault forces." "Understood. And ma'am?" Torres hesitated. "The boys want to know if there's anything special about this mission they should be aware of." Chen looked across the staging area at the soldiers preparing for battle. Each had volunteered for this mission, knowing they would face opponents with vastly superior technology. Each had been briefed about the political implications of their performance. Each understood that humanity's future among the stars might depend on the next 2 hours. "Sergeant Major," she said quietly, "these aliens have never fought humans before. They don't understand what that means. Show them." Torres grinned. "Yes, ma'am. We'll show them what a few primitives with projectile weapons can accomplish." On the opposite side of the facility, General Thokmar reviewed his own forces with considerably less concern. 24 Krogoth warriors, each standing nearly 3 meters tall and weighing over 200 kilograms, checked their simulation equipment with the casual confidence of a species that had never lost a military engagement. Their weapons were scaled-down versions of standard Krogoth armament: directed energy rifles capable of penetrating most known armor, plasma grenades that could clear entire rooms, and personal shields that could deflect everything from kinetic projectiles to low-level energy beams. Their armor incorporated advanced materials that could adapt to different threat types while maintaining full mobility. Major Kexthor, Thokmar's second-in-command, approached his general with what passed for concern among his species. "General, our intelligence briefing on human tactics was somewhat limited. Should we expect any particular challenges from their defensive strategies?" Thokmar's rumbling laugh shook nearby equipment. "Major, these humans use chemical projectile weapons and simple explosive devices. Their armor appears to be basic metal alloys with fabric components. What challenges could they possibly present to Krogoth forces?" "Understood, General. Our assault plan?" "Standard urban assault doctrine. Overwhelming firepower applied rapidly to eliminate defensive positions, followed by systematic clearing operations. We'll have the Central District secured within 30 minutes. In the viewing platforms above, Hundreds of alien dignitaries settled in to watch the entertainment. Ambassador Crixtel had arranged the best seats for the most influential council members, expecting that the demonstration would provide definitive proof of human inadequacy for galactic civilization. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the gathered crowd, "today we witness an educational demonstration of why technological advancement remains the primary qualification for council membership." High Chancellor Vexara materialized beside him, her energy form flickering with amusement. "Ambassador Crixtel, I almost feel sympathy for these humans. They seem genuinely to believe their primitive tactics might prove effective against modern warfare." "Perhaps," Crixtel replied, "but their delusion will serve a useful purpose. Other primitive species will observe this demonstration and understand their proper place in galactic civilization without requiring individual lessons." Below them, the simulation environment activated. The urban district materialized around both forces, a complex maze of buildings, streets, and infrastructure that provided numerous defensive positions and concealment opportunities. The human team immediately dispersed into the structures while Krogoth forces assembled at the district's perimeter. Combat systems engaged with a series of electronic tones. Both forces now carried live simulation weapons that could inflict computer-registered casualties while triggering physical feedback systems in their armor. Pain simulation remained minimal, but hit registration would be absolutely accurate. General Thokmar activated his command interface and surveyed the battlefield. Thermal sensors showed human positions scattered throughout the central district, apparently random defensive deployments. Long-range scanners detected their primitive weapons and confirmed the absence of energy shields or advanced defensive systems. "Pitiful," he muttered to Major Kexthor. "They've distributed their forces without coordinated defensive lines. No overlapping fields of fire. No strategic choke points. This will be even easier than anticipated." He opened a communication channel to all Krogoth forces. "Warriors, advance according to standard doctrine. Eliminate defensive positions with maximum efficiency, maintain formation integrity, and suppress any resistance with overwhelming firepower." The Krogoth assault began with textbook precision. 3 8-warrior assault teams advanced along different streets, their energy weapons sweeping potential defensive positions while their personal shields deflected incoming fire. Their movements demonstrated the tactical sophistication of a species that had perfected urban warfare across 47 conquered worlds. The first contact came 60 seconds into the assault. Krogoth sensors detected human defenders in a building complex at grid reference 347. 2 assault teams converged on the position, while the third maintained overwatch from an adjacent street. Energy weapons fired concentrated bursts that should have eliminated any defenders within seconds. Instead, the humans disappeared. "Major Kexthor," General Thokmar's voice carried a note of surprise. "Confirm target elimination at grid 347. "Negative, General. Thermal signatures dispersed before weapon impact. No casualty registration from computer systems." Thokmar frowned. His sensors showed no human defenders in the targeted building, but they hadn't registered any casualties either. Either the humans had evacuated faster than seemed possible, or they had found some method of avoiding detection. "Continue advance," he ordered. "Maintain alert status for irregular tactics." The assault teams moved deeper into the urban district, their sensors sweeping for human defenders. Occasionally, they detected thermal signatures or movement, but each time their weapons targeted these positions, the humans seemed to vanish before effective fire could be delivered. 5 minutes into the assault, the singing started. It began as a barely audible whining sound, like high-speed machinery operating at the edge of hearing. Krogoth sensors couldn't identify the source, but the sound seemed to come from multiple directions simultaneously. Then the first Krogoth warrior fell. Simulation sensors registered multiple projectile impacts across his torso and limbs. Computer systems immediately classified him as a combat casualty and activated his armor's mobility restrictions. He dropped to one knee, alive but officially eliminated from the engagement. "Sniper fire!" Major Kexthor called out. "Unknown position!" But the singing continued, and more Krogoth warriors began dropping, not one at a time as would be expected from sniper attacks, but in rapid succession as multiple projectiles found their targets from angles that seemed impossible to achieve. "Report!" Thokmar demanded. "General, we're taking casualties from multiple directions, projectile weapons, but the rate of fire exceeds anything in our intelligence briefings. We're detecting thousands of individual projectiles per minute." General Thokmar's eyes widened. He consulted his tactical display and saw something that challenged his understanding of human capabilities. The computer estimated incoming fire at over 12,000 rounds per minute, far exceeding the 3,000 maximum that human documentation had claimed. "Impossible," he muttered. "Our intelligence clearly indicated maximum human rate of fire at 3,000 projectiles per minute." The singing grew louder, more intense, as additional human weapons joined the engagement. Krogoth warriors activated their personal shields and took cover behind available barriers, but the projectiles seemed to come from every direction at once. Major Kexthor's voice crackled through the communication system. "General, these projectiles are penetrating our personal shields. Armor protection appears compromised across multiple warriors." "That cannot be correct," Thokmar replied. "Krogoth personal shields deflect projectile weapons automatically." "Negative, General. Computer simulation indicates shield penetration with multiple casualty registrations." Thokmar checked his own sensors and confirmed the impossible. Human projectile weapons were defeating Krogoth defensive systems that had proven effective against every known projectile technology in the galaxy. In the viewing platforms above, the laughter had stopped completely. Ambassador Crixtel stared at the tactical displays with all four eyes wide. "This cannot be accurate. Primitive projectile weapons cannot penetrate Krogoth shields." High Chancellor Vexara's energy form flickered rapidly, indicating extreme agitation. "The simulation computers are malfunctioning. No pre-interstellar species possesses weapons capable of defeating advanced defensive systems." But the tactical displays continued to show Krogoth casualties mounting while human forces remained effectively invisible to Krogoth sensors. The singing of human weapons grew even louder, a sound unlike anything most galactic species had ever heard. Below in the urban district, the Krogoth assault teams found themselves in a nightmare scenario that their training had never anticipated. Enemy fire came from positions that appeared empty when they looked directly at them. Projectiles struck from angles that should have been impossible given the urban terrain. Their advanced sensors provided detailed information about everything except the location of their attackers. "Alpha Team, report status," General Thokmar ordered. "General, we have 5 casualties from 8 warriors, unable to identify shooter positions, requesting immediate tactical support." "Beta Team, report. 4 casualties from 8, General. These humans are using tactics outside our combat doctrine parameters." "Gamma Team, 3 casualties, General, but we're beginning to identify their methods." Major Kexthor's voice interrupted. "General, I'm observing something unusual about human tactics." "Report." "They're not fighting like a conventional military force. Individual warriors appear to be operating independently, using the urban terrain to create crossfire patterns that exceed the effectiveness of our coordinated assault doctrine." General Thokmar studied his tactical displays more carefully. The humans weren't following standard defensive patterns at all. Instead of establishing clear defensive lines or strong points, they seemed to be flowing through the urban environment like water, appearing wherever Krogoth forces were vulnerable and disappearing before effective counterfires could be delivered. "This is impossible," he muttered. No military force can coordinate such tactics without advanced communication systems. But the evidence continued mounting on his displays. Human forces were achieving casualty ratios that defied every principle of warfare that Krogoth civilization had mastered over millennia. Primitive projectile weapons were defeating advanced energy shields. Uncoordinated individual tactics were outperforming sophisticated assault doctrine. Pre-interstellar forces were systematically dismantling one of the galaxy's most feared military units. The singing of human weapons reached a crescendo as all 48 defenders engaged simultaneously. The sound echoed through the urban district like a mechanical symphony, each weapon adding its voice to a deadly chorus that grew louder and more intense with each passing second. 15 minutes into the assault, General Thokmar faced a reality that his species had never encountered in 3,000 years of interstellar warfare. His forces were losing. "All teams, withdraw to fallback positions," he ordered. "Reassess tactical situation." The Krogoth warriors pulled back to the district's perimeter, leaving behind nearly half their number as registered casualties. Those still active maintained defensive positions while their general tried to understand what had happened. In the viewing platforms, the silence was absolute. Hundreds of alien dignitaries stared at tactical displays that showed the impossible. Primitive humans had stopped a Krogoth assault using nothing more advanced than chemical projectile weapons and individual initiative. Ambassador Crixtel's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "Honored colleagues, there must be some error in the simulation systems. These results cannot be accurate." But High Chancellor Vexara had accessed the simulation computers directly through her energy-based consciousness. "No errors detected, Ambassador. All systems functioning within normal parameters. Computer analysis indicates that human tactics demonstrate previously unknown principles of small unit warfare." "Unknown principles?" Crixtel demanded. "The Galactic Council has studied warfare for millions of years across thousands of civilizations. What principles could possibly be unknown?" Dr. Vasquez appeared on the communication channel, her voice carrying clearly to all viewing platforms. "Honorable delegates, if I may explain what you're observing?" "By all means," Crixtel replied, his voice strained. "Please explain how primitive humans have apparently defeated one of our most advanced military forces." "The key," Dr. Vasquez began, "lies in understanding the difference between sophisticated technology and sophisticated tactics. Your forces excel at applying overwhelming technological superiority against opponents who fight according to conventional military doctrine." She activated a holographic display showing the battle from multiple angles. "However, humans developed our tactics in an environment where technological superiority was rare and temporary. We learned to maximize effectiveness with minimal resources through adaptation and innovation rather than technological dominance." "Explain the shield penetration," General Thokmar demanded from his position in the urban district. "Our defensive systems should deflect projectile weapons automatically." "General, your shields are designed to deflect single projectiles or small numbers of projectiles arriving simultaneously. But human weapons fire projectiles in streams, creating impact patterns that overload deflection systems through sheer volume." Captain Rodriguez joined the communication. "Additionally, General, we've been observing your tactical patterns for the last 15 minutes. Your forces move according to predictable doctrines optimized for technological superiority. Once we understood your movement patterns, positioning our weapons became relatively straightforward." "Predictable?" Thokmar's voice rumbled with indignation. "Krogoth tactics have proven successful across 47 worlds. Against opponents who fought according to conventional military principles," Rodriguez agreed. "But humans learned tactics in an environment where conventional principles often led to defeat. We adapted to survive against superior forces through unconventional methods. Admiral Chen's voice joined the conversation. General Thokmar, members of the Council, this demonstration illustrates exactly what Earth brings to galactic civilization. Not superior technology, but alternative approaches to problem-solving that emerge from unique historical experiences. The urban district fell silent, except for the distant humming of cooling weapons. Krogoth forces remained at the perimeter, unwilling to resume an assault that had proven far more costly than anticipated. Human defenders remained invisible, but obviously still active throughout the central district. General Thokmar consulted his chronometer. 45 minutes remained in the 2-hour defensive scenario. His forces had achieved zero progress toward their objective, while suffering 50% casualties against an opponent armed with primitive weapons. For the first time in his military career, General Thokmar faced the possibility of tactical defeat. In the viewing platforms above, the silence stretched on as alien dignitaries struggled to process what they had witnessed. The sound that had filled the air, the singing of 3,000 rounds per minute multiplied across dozens of human weapons, had accomplished something that no galactic civilization had managed in recorded history. It had stopped the Krogoth, and the demonstration was far from over. The silence stretched across the viewing platforms like a physical presence. For 47 minutes, the most feared military force in the known galaxy had been unable to advance past the perimeter of an urban district defended by primitive humans using projectile weapons. The impossibility of the situation had left hundreds of alien dignitaries speechless. General Thokmar stood at his command position, studying tactical displays that showed a reality his military training had never prepared him to face. His remaining warriors maintained defensive positions while he tried to formulate a strategy for resuming the assault. Every doctrine he had mastered, every principle he had learned, suggested that this situation should not exist. Major Kexthor, he finally spoke. Analysis of human tactics. General, they appear to be fighting as independent operators rather than a coordinated unit. Each defender exploits terrain features to create individual zones of fire that overlap with others, but without centralized coordination. How is such coordination possible without advanced communication systems? Unknown, General. Their equipment shows no evidence of quantum communication matrices or neural linking systems. They appear to be coordinating through pure tactical intuition. Thokmar absorbed this information with growing unease. Coordinated independent action represented a concept that challenged fundamental Krogoth military philosophy. His forces achieved success through disciplined execution of proven doctrines under centralized command. The humans seemed to achieve superior results through individual creativity, guided by shared tactical understanding. In the viewing platforms, Ambassador Krixtel activated a private communication channel to High Chancellor Vexara. Chancellor, this situation requires immediate analysis. Our fundamental assumptions about primitive species may need revision. Vexara's energy form pulsed with patterns indicating deep concentration. Ambassador, I have been monitoring the simulation computers continuously. The tactical algorithms confirm that human methods demonstrate previously unknown efficiency parameters. Elaborate. Standard military doctrine assumes that technological superiority determines engagement outcomes. Human tactics suggest that adaptive innovation can overcome technological disadvantages through methods we have never encountered. Krixtel's mandibles clicked nervously. What are the implications for galactic security if primitive species can develop tactics effective against advanced civilizations? Unknown, Vexara admitted. This demonstration represents the first documented case of pre-interstellar tactics proving effective against modern military forces. Below them in the urban district, Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to General Thokmar. General, would you like to discuss tactical modifications for the remainder of this exercise? Thokmar's response carried clear frustration. Admiral Chen, explain how your forces coordinate such effective defensive patterns without advanced communication systems. General, coordination emerges from shared training and common tactical understanding rather than technological systems. Each defender understands how their actions support overall defensive objectives without requiring constant communication. Impossible. Effective military coordination requires centralized command and control systems. Captain Rodriguez joined the channel. General, with respect, that assumption may be limiting your tactical options. Human military experience suggests that decentralized coordination can achieve superior results in complex environments. Decentralized coordination is a contradiction in terms, Thokmar replied. Military units require unified command to achieve tactical objectives. Dr. Vasquez activated her holographic display again, showing detailed analysis of the engagement. General, if I may suggest an alternative perspective, your forces demonstrate excellent coordination and superior technology. However, they operate according to predictable patterns that allow defenders to anticipate their actions. Krogoth tactics have proven successful across 47 star systems, against opponents who fought according to conventional military principles, Rodriguez agreed. But human tactics evolved in an environment where conventional approaches often failed. We learned to adapt continuously rather than relying on predetermined strategies. Sergeant Major Torres spoke from his position somewhere in the urban district, his voice calm despite 47 minutes of intense combat. General, if you're willing to try something different, we could show you how adaptive tactics work in practice. Explain, Thokmar demanded. Resume your assault, but modify your approach based on what you've learned about our methods. Your forces have the technological advantage. Use it creatively rather than following standard doctrine. General Thokmar considered this suggestion while studying his tactical displays. Standard Krogoth doctrine emphasized overwhelming force, applied rapidly to eliminate resistance. But the humans had demonstrated that standard doctrine could be countered by unconventional responses. Very well, he decided. All teams, prepare for modified assault. New objective. Adapt tactics to counter human methods. The second phase of the engagement began with significant changes to Krogoth strategy. Instead of advancing in coordinated assault formations, Thokmar divided his remaining forces into smaller teams with independent objectives. Rather than following predetermined movement patterns, he authorized field commanders to modify their approaches based on real-time tactical assessment. The humans noticed the change immediately. They're adapting, Torres observed to his nearest teammate. Smart General, this is about to get more interesting. The Krogoth warriors resumed their advance, but with crucial differences. They moved in irregular patterns that avoided the crossfire zones that had proven so effective during the first assault. They used their technological advantages more creatively, employing personal shields as mobile cover while advancing through areas that human weapons couldn't effectively target. The singing of human weapons resumed, but with different patterns. Individual defenders adjusted their positions and firing approaches to counter Krogoth tactical modifications. The sound became more complex, like a mechanical orchestra responding to a changing musical composition. For the first time since the engagement began, Krogoth forces made significant progress into the urban district. Much better, Admiral Chen observed from her command position. General Thokmar is demonstrating exactly the kind of adaptive thinking that makes tactical cooperation possible. But the humans weren't finished demonstrating their capabilities. As Krogoth forces advanced deeper into the district using their modified tactics, human defenders began implementing the second phase of their own strategy. Instead of maintaining static defensive positions, they started moving through the urban environment in patterns that created constantly shifting fields of fire. The effect was devastating. Krogoth warriors found themselves under attack from directions that had been clear moments before. Enemy fire patterns changed faster than their sensors could track. The humans seemed to anticipate Krogoth movements and respond before those movements were complete. "Impossible," Major Kexthor reported. "General, human forces are repositioning faster than our sensors can detect movement." But Admiral Chen was already explaining the phenomenon to the viewing platforms. "Honored delegates, what you're observing represents the difference between reactive and predictive tactics. Krogoth forces respond to observed threats using superior technology. Human forces anticipate probable threats and position themselves accordingly." "How can primitive species predict advanced military movements?" Crixtel demanded. "Through pattern recognition based on extensive combat experience," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Human military history includes thousands of years of warfare in environments where survival required accurate prediction of enemy behavior." Captain Rodriguez added, "Additionally, human tactics emphasize continuous movement and position shifting. We don't hold static positions that can be targeted effectively. We flow through combat environments like water, finding and exploiting weaknesses as they develop." The demonstration of these principles continued as human defenders seemed to melt through the urban terrain, appearing wherever Krogoth forces were vulnerable and disappearing before effective counterfires could be organized. The singing of their weapons became a constant background symphony, rising and falling as different defenders engaged and disengaged according to tactical requirements. General Thokmar watched his tactical displays with growing amazement. The humans weren't just defending effectively, they were teaching his forces new concepts of battlefield movement and tactical adaptation. Every engagement provided lessons in alternative approaches to military problem-solving. "Admiral Chen," he called through the communication system, "request clarification of human tactical objectives." "General, your forces could have maintained static defensive positions and achieved acceptable casualty ratios using crossfire techniques. Instead, you're demonstrating mobile tactical concepts that exceed anything in Krogoth military doctrine." "Why?" Chen's response carried warmth that hadn't been present during the council session 3 days earlier. "General, this demonstration serves educational purposes for both our species. We're showing you human capabilities while learning about Krogoth tactical sophistication." "Educational purposes?" "Mutual education, General. Your forces are adapting to our methods faster than we anticipated. That teaches us about Krogoth flexibility and innovation potential. Simultaneously, our methods are apparently providing new perspectives on battlefield tactics for your consideration." Major Kexthor's voice interrupted their conversation. "General, analysis indicates that continued engagement will result in complete tactical stalemate. Human mobile tactics counter our technological advantages, while our adaptive modifications neutralize their defensive positions." Thokmar studied his displays and confirmed his subordinate's assessment. Neither force could achieve decisive advantage over the other. The humans couldn't eliminate Krogoth forces equipped with superior technology and personal shields. The Krogoth couldn't overcome human tactical flexibility and environmental exploitation. But something remarkable was happening. Both forces were learning. Krogoth warriors were beginning to move with increased flexibility, using terrain features more creatively and coordinating their actions through initiative rather than rigid command structure. Human defenders were developing new appreciation for the advantages of advanced defensive systems and coordinated firepower application. "General Thokmar," Admiral Chen's voice carried a new note of respect, "would you be interested in experimenting with combined tactical approaches?" "Explain." "Temporary cooperation between human and Krogoth forces to test integrated tactical concepts. Your technological advantages combined with human adaptive methods." The viewing platforms buzzed with sudden conversation as alien dignitaries realized the implications of Chen's suggestion. The demonstration was evolving beyond a simple test of human military capabilities into something unprecedented in galactic military history. "Combined operations?" High Chancellor Vexara's energy form flickered rapidly. No galactic species has ever integrated primitive military forces into advanced tactical structures. But General Thakmar was already considering the possibilities. Admiral Chen proposed specific integration parameters. Mixed teams, Chen replied immediately. Krogoth warriors providing technological firepower and defensive capabilities while human soldiers provide tactical flexibility and environmental exploitation. Combined advantages rather than competing limitations. Fascinating concept, Thakmar admitted. Major Kexthor, analysis of potential effectiveness. General, theoretical models suggest significant capability enhancement through complementary tactical approaches. Human adaptive methods could multiply the effectiveness of our technological advantages. The remainder of the demonstration transformed into something entirely different from what anyone had anticipated. Human and Krogoth forces began operating in mixed teams, with immediate results that astounded everyone watching. Krogoth technology provided capabilities that human tactics could exploit more effectively than either species had achieved independently. The singing of human weapons became harmonized with the distinctive whine of Krogoth energy systems. The sound filled the urban district with a symphony of cooperation that represented something new in galactic military experience. When the 2-hour demonstration period ended, both forces had learned more about tactical innovation than most military units discovered in years of conventional training. The impossible had become routine as primitive and advanced forces found ways to combine their advantages into something greater than either could achieve alone. In the viewing platforms, the silence had returned, but with completely different implications. The laughter that had filled the council chamber 3 days earlier seemed like an ancient memory. The aliens who had dismissed human capabilities were now witnessing tactical innovations that could revolutionize galactic military doctrine. Ambassador Crixtel activated the General Communication System. Admiral Chen, the Galactic Council acknowledges that this demonstration has exceeded all expectations. Human military capabilities appear adequate for Council membership requirements. Thank you, Ambassador, Chen replied. However, I believe the demonstration has shown something more significant than human adequacy. Elaborate. The demonstration has shown that cooperation between different approaches to problem solving can produce results that exceed what any single approach can achieve. Earth requests membership in the Galactic Council not as supplicants seeking protection, but as partners offering collaboration. General Thakmar's voice boomed through the communication system. Admiral Chen speaks truth. In 47 star systems, the Krogoth have never learned as much about tactics in a single engagement as we have learned today. The humans bring knowledge that could benefit every species in the Council. High Chancellor Vexara materialized her most formal appearance to address the assembled delegates. Members of the Council, this demonstration has revealed capabilities that require immediate consideration. The question is no longer whether humans deserve membership, but what role they should play in galactic civilization. Dr. Vasquez activated her final holographic display, showing tactical analyses from the entire engagement. Honored delegates, Earth brings to the galactic community something unique, perspective shaped by different evolutionary experiences. Our tactics evolved through necessity rather than technological advantage. Our innovations emerge from adaptation rather than predetermined doctrine. These perspectives, Captain Rodriguez added, could prove valuable not only in military contexts but in any situation requiring creative problem-solving under resource constraints. The viewing platforms erupted in conversation as delegates discussed implications that extended far beyond military considerations. Species that had mastered technology but struggled with adaptation saw potential solutions in human approaches. Civilizations that had achieved stability but lost flexibility recognized opportunities for renewal through human perspectives. Ambassador Crixtel called for order and addressed the human delegation directly. Admiral Chen, The Galactic Council will vote on your membership petition within one standard day. However, I believe I speak for most delegates when I say that today's demonstration has fundamentally changed our understanding of what your species offers to galactic civilization. We appreciate that, Ambassador, Chen replied. But we'd also like to extend an invitation. What invitation? For any Council species interested in collaborative tactical development, Earth offers to share our adaptive methods with galactic military forces while learning from their technological capabilities. Combined development rather than competitive advancement. General Thokmar was the first to respond. The Krogoth war clans accept this invitation immediately. Today's collaboration has shown possibilities that we must explore further. Within minutes, delegations from 17 different species had volunteered to participate in joint tactical development programs. The demonstration that had begun as a test of human worthiness had evolved into the foundation for unprecedented interspecies cooperation. As the viewing platforms emptied and delegates returned to consider their votes, the urban district fell quiet. Human and Krogoth forces gathered their equipment while discussing lessons learned and possibilities for future collaboration. Admiral Chen stood with General Thokmar at the facility's central plaza, watching their troops interact with the easy camaraderie of warriors who had shared an educational experience. "General," she observed, "this demonstration taught us something important about the nature of strength." "Explain." "Admiral, true strength doesn't come from having the best weapons or the most advanced technology. It comes from the ability to adapt, to learn, and to find new solutions when old methods prove insufficient." Thokmar's rumbling laugh shook the ground beneath their feet, but this time it carried warmth rather than mockery. "Admiral Chen, 3 days ago I believed that superior technology always prevailed over primitive cunning. Today I learned that the most primitive weapon, in the hands of the most adaptive species, can indeed rewrite the rules of warfare. And more than that," Chen smiled, "we learned that the best solutions often come from combining different perspectives rather than choosing between them." Above them, the sound of departing aircraft filled the air as delegates returned to their ships to consider a vote that many now saw as a foregone conclusion. The laughter that had greeted humanity's petition had been replaced by recognition that sometimes the most important innovations come from the most unexpected sources. The demonstration was over, but its implications were just beginning. In showing the galaxy what human tactics could accomplish, Earth had also shown what galactic civilization could become when different species contributed their unique strengths to shared challenges. The singing of 3,000 rounds per minute had indeed stopped the laughter, but more importantly, it had started something new, the recognition that strength comes not from dominance, but from the wisdom to value what each species brings to the vast community of intelligence that spans the stars. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to see potential where others saw only problems, to find opportunity where others saw only obstacles, and to build bridges where others saw only barriers. And in a galaxy that had forgotten how to be surprised, that was the most valuable contribution of all. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the sound of 1,000 different species communicating in their native tongues. Translators worked overtime as delegates from across the known galaxy gathered for what many considered the most important session in recorded history. At the center of it all sat Ambassador Crixtel of the Valtharian Empire, his forearms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the assembled crowd. "Esteemed colleagues," Crixtel's voice boomed through the translation matrix, "today we discuss the most amusing petition ever submitted to this august body. The species calling themselves humans have requested membership in our Galactic Council." A wave of chittering, buzzing, and various forms of alien laughter swept through the chamber. The Zephyrian delegation's crystalline bodies chimed like wind chimes in a hurricane. The massive Krogoth representatives rumbled with what passed for mirth among their kind. Even the usually stoic ethereal collective's energy forms flickered in patterns that suggested amusement. Crixtel continued, his mandibles clicking together in what his species considered a smile. These creatures claim to represent a unified planetary government. They boast of their technological achievements and military capabilities. Most entertaining of all, they actually believe they deserve a seat among civilizations that have mastered interstellar travel for millennia. High Chancellor Vexara of the Ethereal Collective materialized her preferred form, a shimmering humanoid figure of pure energy. Ambassador Crixtel speaks truth. These humans have barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their longest space journey was to their own system's outer planets, using primitive chemical propulsion. They have no understanding of quantum consciousness transfer, dimensional folding, or even basic matter manipulation. Indeed, rumbled General Tokmar of the Krogoth war clans, his voice like grinding stone. Their military consists of kinetic projectile weapons and chemical explosives. They still use metal projectiles fired by controlled chemical reactions. It's like watching children play with sticks and stones while calling themselves warriors. The laughter grew louder. Some delegates had to excuse themselves to recover from their amusement fits. The singing crystals of Melodia actually harmonized their laughter into a symphony of mockery that echoed through the chamber's acoustically perfect dome. At the far end of the chamber, in the section reserved for observers and petitioners, sat 3 humans in simple blue and white uniforms. Admiral Sarah Chen, the leader of Earth's first interstellar diplomatic mission, maintained her composure despite the obvious ridicule. Beside her, Captain Marcus Rodriguez kept his hands folded in his lap, though his jaw muscles worked steadily. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, took detailed notes on each species' behavior and apparent biology. Ambassador Crixtel noticed the human delegation and gestured toward them with one of his 4 arms. "Look at them, honored colleagues. 3 representatives of a species that numbers barely 8 billion on a single world, sitting quietly while their betters discuss their fate. They don't even seem offended by our honest assessment of their primitive status." Admiral Chen stood slowly, her movement precise and controlled. The chamber's noise level dropped slightly as curiosity overcame amusement. She activated the translation device at her collar and spoke clearly. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I am Admiral Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth Government. We appreciate this opportunity to present our case for membership. We understand that our technological development may seem limited compared to your advanced civilizations." This triggered another wave of laughter, particularly from the Veltharian section. Chen continued without pause. "However, we believe that diversity of thought and approach has value. Earth brings unique perspectives and capabilities that could benefit the broader galactic community." "Unique perspectives?" Crixtel's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme amusement in his species. "What could you possibly offer? Your people still solve disputes through violence. Your planet is divided into competing nation-states that regularly engage in warfare. You consume other living creatures for sustenance, instead of synthesizing nutrients efficiently. You're barely removed from your primitive origins." "We are indeed young," Chen acknowledged. "But youth brings innovation. We've achieved remarkable progress in a relatively short time. Our scientific method emphasizes practical experimentation and creative problem-solving. Our cultural diversity has produced countless innovations in art, science, and technology." High Chancellor Vexara's energy form pulsed dismissively. "Innovation? Young species, your people use crude combustion engines for transportation. You burn fossil fuels for energy instead of tapping stellar cores or quantum fluctuations. Your medicine relies on introducing foreign chemicals into biological systems rather than direct cellular manipulation. What innovation could possibly emerge from such primitive foundations?" Dr. Vasquez stood and addressed the chamber. "If I may, honorable delegates, Our approach to medicine has achieved remarkable results precisely because we work with biological systems rather than attempting to override them entirely. Our research into genetics, immunology, and regenerative medicine has produced techniques that might surprise you. Surprise us? General Thokmar's laughter shook the floor beneath his massive frame. Little human, my people conquered 17 star systems before your species developed written language. We have weapons that can crack planets and shields that can withstand stellar flares. What could possibly surprise us about your medical techniques involving plant extracts and metal tools? Captain Rodriguez finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. General Thokmar, Admiral Chen, Dr. Vasquez, with respect, I think there might be some misunderstanding about human capabilities. While it's true we're newcomers to interstellar society, we've had considerable experience with conflict resolution. The chamber erupted in renewed laughter. Several delegates actually applauded the apparent absurdity of the statement. Crixtel wiped moisture from his compound eyes with two hands while gesturing dismissively with the other two. Conflict resolution. Your species has been in continuous warfare for its entire recorded history. Your homeworld still maintains thousands of nuclear weapons despite having no external threats. You've elevated warfare to an art form while remaining primitively violent. That's exactly our point, Rodriguez said quietly. We've learned from extensive experience that conflict, while sometimes unavoidable, requires careful management. We've developed sophisticated strategies for both warfare and peacekeeping that might prove valuable in an interstellar context. Warfare strategies? High Chancellor Vexara's form brightened with what appeared to be amusement. Captain Rodriguez, the Ethereal Collective has fought wars across dimensions that your people cannot even perceive. We've conquered civilizations that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. We've waged battles in temporal loops where victory and defeat occurred in the same moment. What could humans possibly teach us about warfare? Admiral Chen exchanged glances with her companions before responding. Honorable delegates, we don't claim to understand the scope of your conflicts or capabilities. We simply suggest that different approaches to problems can yield unexpected solutions. Earth requests only the opportunity to contribute our perspective to galactic civilization. Ambassador Crixtel consulted a holographic display that materialized before him. Very well, humans. In the interest of thoroughness, let us review your formal petition. You claim military capabilities sufficient to defend Galactic Council interests. You assert technological innovations worthy of sharing with advanced civilizations. You propose cultural contributions that would enrich our society. He paused, his mandibles clicking in rhythm that suggested building to a climactic moment. Your petition includes detailed specifications for your primary military assets. According to this document, your most advanced starship carries kinetic projectile weapons with a maximum rate of fire of 3,000 rounds per minute. The chamber fell silent for exactly 2.3 seconds before exploding in the loudest laughter yet recorded in the Council's history. Several delegates actually fell from their seats. The Melodian Crystal's harmonic laughter reached frequencies that threatened to shatter their own crystalline structures. General Thokmar's rumbling mirth registered on the chamber's seismic sensors. 3,000 rounds per minute, Crixtel gasped between fits of laughter. They think projectile weapons firing 3,000 metal pellets per minute represents advanced military technology. High Chancellor Vexara's energy form flickered wildly. My dear humans, our personal sidearms fire concentrated quantum beams that can disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Our ship weapons manipulate gravity wells and antimatter streams. 3,000 projectiles per minute? My ancestors used more sophisticated weapons during their primitive period. The laughter continued for nearly 5 minutes. Some species required medical attention to recover from their amusement fits. The chamber's environmental systems worked overtime to manage the various atmospheric requirements as different species reacted to what they perceived as the ultimate absurdity. Admiral Chen remained standing throughout the display, her expression unchanged. When the noise finally subsided, she spoke again. Honored delegates, we understand our technology appears primitive by your standards. However, we believe effectiveness matters more than sophistication. Our weapons and strategies have proven highly successful in our own conflicts. Successful against whom? General Thokmar wiped tears of laughter from his multiple eyes. Other humans armed with equally primitive weapons? Admiral Chen, I command a battle fleet that could sterilize your entire world in 14 minutes. My personal combat armor could withstand anything your people could possibly deploy against it. Your 3,000 projectiles per minute would bounce harmlessly off energy shields that our civilians use for recreational purposes. Dr. Vasquez activated her data pad and projected a holographic display into the chamber. General Thokmar, if I may show you some historical data about human warfare, you might find our development curve interesting. By all means, Crixtel gestured expansively with all four arms. Let us see what passes for military development among species that still use metal projectiles. The hologram showed a timeline of human warfare, from stone tools through nuclear weapons to their current space-capable forces. Various battle scenes played out in miniature, showing the evolution of human conflict. Fascinating, High Chancellor Vexara observed, her tone dripping with condescension. In less than 10,000 years, you progressed from hitting each other with rocks to hitting each other with metal projectiles fired by chemical explosions. Truly remarkable advancement. The progression is indeed notable, Dr. Vasquez agreed. However, I'd like to draw your attention to some specific characteristics of human warfare that might be relevant to interstellar conflict. She highlighted several battles where smaller, less advanced forces had defeated larger, more sophisticated armies through unconventional tactics, psychological warfare, and adaptive strategies. Primitive cleverness, General Thokmar dismissed. Irrelevant when facing truly advanced civilizations with overwhelming technological superiority. Captain Rodriguez stood again. General, with respect, have your people ever faced opponents who were both technologically inferior and strategically innovative? Many times, Thokmar replied confidently. The Krogoth have conquered 47 star systems populated by species at various technological levels. Superior technology always prevails over primitive cunning. Always? Rodriguez asked quietly. Always, Thokmar confirmed. Overwhelming force deployed with strategic precision eliminates any advantage that primitive species might imagine they possess. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. General Thokmar, members of the Council, we appreciate your candor about our technological limitations. We don't dispute that your weapons and defenses far exceed our current capabilities. Finally, Crixtel muttered, some realistic assessment from the humans. However, Chen continued, we'd like to make one final request before you vote on our petition. What now? High Chancellor Vexara asked with obvious impatience. A demonstration, Chen said simply. The chamber buzzed with renewed interest. Several delegates leaned forward, curious about what the humans might possibly demonstrate that could be relevant to their petition. A demonstration of what? Crixtel asked. Our military capabilities, Admiral Chen replied. Specifically, a simulated combat exercise between human forces and volunteer representatives from your militaries. The buzzing stopped abruptly. The chamber fell into stunned silence before erupting in even louder laughter than before. A combat demonstration? General Thokmar's voice boomed with amusement. You want to demonstrate your primitive projectile weapons against advanced galactic military forces? A simulation only, Chen clarified. No actual harm to anyone involved. Simply an opportunity to show how human forces might perform in an interstellar conflict scenario. Absolutely ridiculous, High Chancellor Vexara declared. The outcome would be predetermined, Advanced energy weapons and defensive systems against chemical projectiles and primitive tactics? It would be less a demonstration than an execution. Nevertheless, Chen pressed, would the Council consider such a demonstration? If our performance meets reasonable standards for galactic military forces, would that factor into your decision about our membership petition? Ambassador Crixtel consulted with several nearby delegates in rapid, untranslated conversation. After a few minutes, he turned back to the humans. Admiral Chen, such a demonstration would serve no useful purpose except to illustrate why pre-interstellar species require protection rather than membership in our council. However, if you insist on embarrassing yourselves publicly, we see no reason to deny your request. We insist, Chen confirmed. Very well, Crixtel announced to the chamber. The humans request a military demonstration. General Thokmar, would the Krogoth be willing to participate in this exercise? Thokmar's rumbling laughter shook the chamber again. It would be my pleasure to demonstrate why the Krogoth have never lost a military engagement in 3,000 years of interstellar warfare. Excellent, Chen nodded. We propose a simulated urban combat scenario. Human forces defending a position against Krogoth attackers. Simulation weapons and armor only, with computer-monitored results. Urban combat? Thokmar seemed even more amused. Admiral Chen, the Krogoth specialize in overwhelming force applied rapidly over large areas. We don't engage in the primitive building-to-building fighting that characterizes pre-interstellar warfare. Nevertheless, Chen replied, would you be willing to adapt your tactics to such a scenario for demonstration purposes? Certainly, Thokmar agreed. It will be educational for all involved to observe the futility of primitive defensive strategies against advanced military doctrine. High Chancellor Vexara materialized a more solid form to address the chamber directly. Members of the Council, while this demonstration will certainly confirm our assessment of human military capabilities, it may serve an educational purpose. Young species often require dramatic illustration of their limitations before accepting their appropriate place in galactic civilization. Agreed, Crixtel announced. The demonstration will take place in 3 standard days at the Council's military testing facility. General Thokmar will command Krogoth forces in a simulated urban assault against human defenders. The results will be factored into our final decision regarding the human membership petition. Admiral Chen bowed formally to the chamber. The United Earth government thanks the Galactic Council for this opportunity. As the session adjourned and delegates began filing out, the conversation buzzed with amusement about the upcoming demonstration. Most agreed it would provide excellent entertainment value, watching primitive humans attempt to defend against one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. General Thokmar approached the human delegation as they gathered their materials. Admiral Chen, I respect your courage, even if your judgment appears questionable. For the record, I take no pleasure in demonstrating the hopelessness of your position. I appreciate that, General, Chen replied. For the record, we're looking forward to showing you something new. Thokmar's expression would have been puzzled if humans could read Krogoth facial expressions. Something new? Admiral, the Krogoth have studied warfare for millennia. What could a pre-interstellar species possibly show us that we haven't already mastered? Admiral Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. General Thokmar, you mentioned that superior technology always prevails over primitive cunning. It does, Thokmar confirmed. We'll see, Chen said quietly as she walked away. Behind her, Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Vasquez exchanged glances. They had spent months preparing for this moment, knowing that Earth's future in galactic civilization would depend not on matching alien technology, but on demonstrating what made humanity unique among the stars. The laughter had been loud and long in the council chamber. But in 3 days, when those 3,000 rounds per minute started singing their deadly song, the laughter would die completely. And in that silence, the galaxy would learn that sometimes the most primitive weapons, in the hands of the most adaptive species, could rewrite the rules of warfare itself.